how are these teams in the red zone, and are these teams really aggressive on fourth downs? And you brought this up. Aren't the Commanders one of the best teams on fourth downs in the entire NFL?
The Commanders are amazing on fourth down. They hit it like an 85% clip, and I'm not exaggerating. And the reason why is it's twofold. Number one is that they have an incredible quarterback in Jayden Daniels who can take off with his feet and also throw the ball, but also Cliff Kingsbury has done a really nice job of tooling the offensive play calling around Jayden's skill set. Like early in the season, there was all this criticism like, oh, wow, what kind of play calling is this? I'm like, this is a rookie quarterback's first game. You know, it takes time to sort of learn the entire playbook and get comfortable. It's his first game ever. But as the season has gone on, we've seen that playbook expand, the play calling expand. And so they do a lot of different things on fourth down. Sometimes they'll bring in Marcus Mariota, you know, and what was it last game? They did this a couple of times. Once was just to draw Tampa off sides. The other time was a quarterback sneak. And they split out Jayden as a receiver. They'll do all sorts of interesting things on fourth down that are super creative. And so Dan Quinn is going to be aggressive. He will go for it on fourth down. I think the Commanders will have a lot of success. Dan Campbell is the same way. And so not only do you have two offenses that can strike, who have, especially the Lions, who have a ton of offensive firepower, but you're going to see a ton of fourth down attempts in this game. And I think that's one of the reasons why this number is so high. I mean, 55.5 in a playoff game is sort of stupid.
Yeah, I think that's probably a little too high for me to want to actually play it. Am I going to be shocked if we see a ton of points in this? No. It's also indoors.
Right.
So it's going to be a track meet, one would assume. But here's the thing is sometimes, you know, if you go for it and you leave points on the table, maybe that's what's going to cost you. Because we did see that in the Commanders' last game against the Bucs, where there were times where they had first and goal and they went for it every single down and did not get a single point from that drive. I was trying to think, would you play anything on the kickers here? Because, like, I'm trying to take the information that we know. Hey, both these coaches are really aggressive. Does it translate into an actual bet? Because I'm looking at the kickers. So you can do kicking props over at BetMGM. Field goals made. Okay. Jake Bates and Zane Gonzalez. Both of the lines are set at 1.5. Both of them are juiced to the under. Jake Bates under 1.5, minus 115. Zane Gonzalez, who nearly missed a 37-yard field goal at the end, under 1.5 field goals is minus 140. Do you see the Commanders going for field goals in this one when they're probably going to have to score 30-plus points to win the game?
No, I don't. I think they're going to have to be hyper aggressive. And I think they know it. And honestly, it's part of their DNA. Like, I think if you're an offensive player, don't you just love it when the coach decides to go for it on fourth down? Like, how many times have you seen a team on the field and they have like a yard or two to go and they're looking at the sidelines and they want to go. They don't want to be taken off the field because you're there to compete and you believe in yourself and you're like, I want to go. We can get this. We don't want the punter to come out here. We can get this yard or two. That's just part of being a competitor. How many times have we seen that in a game and the Commanders just stay on the field? They know, we're going to go. Unless it's 4th and 6, 4th and 7, we're going to go for it. And so I think maybe I would maybe bet on the kickers just because we're going to see a lot of points. And so, look, if you can get maybe over a field goal and a half, points are points, right? At 55.5, there's going to be some field goals sprinkled in there somewhere, right? Like even though both things can be true. You can go for it a lot on fourth downs and maybe take away some kicking situations. But with a total this high, there are going to be situations where field goals will be attempted. And so if you can get a good price on over like 1.5 field goals, I think that's worth looking at.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to watch the game through the lens of the kicker. Because I'll say this, Zane Gonzalez has not, posted the best numbers this year. But I will say last game, he did make 3 field goals. So maybe that goes against it. Yeah. But in each of he's only hit this in one of the last 5 games. So he has been not somebody who has been relied upon heavily to make a bunch of field goals. So, Jenks, I guess we'll touch a little bit on the spread here. I think I'm leaning towards, I don't know, the Lions laying 9.5. If there's any team that can really pile up the points and win in a blowout, it's the Lions. But again, I don't know if I want to fade the Commanders' magic that we've been seeing lately.
Yeah, I just don't. Every time I doubt the Commanders, and I try not to doubt them, I want them to win. But I keep thinking this. Like at some point, this magic has to end, right? Like, is it sustainable? Where you've had 5 wins, 5 where you've won on the final play of the game. Like, think about that. It's kind of like the Chiefs, where you say, oh, well, this happened. They kind of got lucky here, or this isn't sustainable. But maybe it is. Like, what's the one thing that the Chiefs and the Commanders have in common? The one thing: great quarterback play, exceptional quarterback play. So there may be times when you say, okay, well, it wasn't pretty, or this is not how I expected this to go down, or it was a nail biter. But when you have an exceptional quarterback who is clutch in those moments, you can win any game in any situation, especially if it's close at the end. So I don't want to lay 9.5, but I do agree with you. If there is a team that can absolutely beat the brakes off someone, it's probably the Lions. But also, these are 2 of the best teams in the NFL against the number. Like, Detroit is 12-5 against the number. Washington is 11-6-1 against the number. These are 2 top 5 teams in the National Football League at covering. So I still get nervous. As much as I think the Lions possibly cover, with a guy like Jayden Daniels, I don't want to fade him either. I think the bet that I like the most in this game is a Terry McLaurin anytime touchdown. If you look around, you can get that at plus money. Terry McLaurin has 14 touchdowns in his last 16 games. He scored a touchdown in 6 of his last 7 games. And he is the wide receiver 1 without a doubt. Like, you have to have a different guy step up each week for the Commanders. They don't really have a true wide receiver 2. Like, Terry is that guy. And with 55.5 points as your total, I would imagine Terry McLaurin gets in the end zone at least once, and I think it's plus money.
Yeah, we have a lot of touchdown bets that I feel like you could get into. Just thinking there's going to be a lot of scoring here. Let's look at touchdown scores and see the price on this, because I think that's a good one. Plus 130, solid plus money for the number 1 receiver for the Washington Commanders. So they were talking about weaknesses on, I think this was NFL Live yesterday, and they were pointing out that the Lions, the one weakness that they found with their defense is that they're giving up a lot of yards to rushing quarterbacks. And I looked on the grid, fantasy points against, the Lions are giving up the 4th most rush yards to opposing quarterbacks. So maybe this is the pathway for the Commanders to keep it close. And also from a prop standpoint, maybe this is another instance of saying, hey, Jayden Daniels running is going to be a big part of the game plan. Because I was looking at some of these games. Josh Allen had 68 rush yards against the Lions. Kyler Murray was the leading rusher for his entire team against the Lions. Baker Mayfield as well. So maybe this is a place where you take the rushing attempts